Hi pension subscribers, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about what I believe is going to happen in the United Kingdom over the course of the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years is these gold-plated, defined benefit, final salary schemes, safeguarded assets. I have a feeling that over the course of time, shareholder value, the revolving door of politics between government and business is going to ensure that these benefits are watered down over the course of time. We've already seen an example of this most recently with a couple of our clients. So just going to share an email with you here. Obviously for security reasons, we've redacted the information of the company and people it's sent to, but the main important point here is effectively they are introducing reduced cash equivalent transfer values because the scheme effectively has insufficient funds. So what we can see here on the document, as I'm scrolling down, is it talks about what is a transfer value, how is it calculated. Then we get on to the interesting stuff. How does the underfunding in the scheme impact transfer values? Okay, the trustees have a responsibility to regularly monitor the financial position of the scheme, i.e. the value of the assets held relative to the value placed on all benefits that have been promised to members, the liabilities, and to consider the financial position in context of how much the scheme can pay to members as a transfer value. As you will be aware, the scheme was in a deficit at the last actuarial date on the 31st of July 2018. Although the trustee and the company have agreed a recovery plan to repair the deficit that existed at July 2018, changes in financial markets since the actuarial valuation performed on the 31st of July 2018 have led to a further deterioration in the financial position of the scheme. I'm just going to come out for a moment. If we look back at what was happening in the markets back then, in terms of the growth rates, we did go on a pretty long bull run for a period of 10 years. So obviously, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm not quite sure about the terminology that's been used there because I'm not sure how the market returns possibly could have impacted them negatively over that course of time. I would have to double check the exact timings of the market conditions then, but that seems a little bit uncertain to me. The next point here, reduction to transfer values. The trustee has a duty to consider whether it is responsible and fair for all members of the scheme to continue to pay transfer values in full whilst the scheme is underfunded, which could ultimately result in the funding position of the scheme deteriorating for the remaining members. Okay, fair enough. Why should the people who transfer out now get a full CETV and the people who remain inside the scheme are not going to get paid their full pension? But at the end of the day, everyone acts in their own self-interest. The majority of clients, would you rather stay inside the DB scheme to ensure that everyone gets a slightly reduced pension, or would you rather come out now and have a higher amount? Obviously, that's people's own decision. So next it goes on to the examples here and obviously goes into a lot more detail. Now, this letter was sent out to the member years ago. Now, the member would have read this and not understood it. It's a 4-page document with some pretty highly technical information in it. Retail clients are not going to understand this. You will not know, unless you are pretty smart, what is going on inside your DB scheme, and you read all the information, you get in touch with the actuaries, and you really understand everything. Now, I'm going to flip over to where this legislation has actually come from. So this isn't the Ceding scheme just making this up, pulling it out of thin air that they're going to be doing reductions. They've taken this from the Schedule 1A of the Occupational Pension Scheme Transfer Value Amendment Regulations 2018. As you can see on my screen here, Schedule 1A, Reduction in Initial Cash Equivalent Transfer Values. So, in the case of a scheme to which Part 3 of the 2004 Act scheme applies, the member's initial cash equivalent transfer value may be reduced to the trustees if A, the insufficiency conditions are met, B, the insufficiency report has an effective date which is no earlier than the effective date of the most recent actuarial valuation received by the trustees in accordance with Section 224(4) of the 2004 Act scheme funding. And the guarantee date shows in the statement of entitlement at the last 1 year before the member attains normal pension age in relation to the rights benefits covered by the statement of entitlement. So, a lot of lawyer talk there and a lot of stuff in terms of legislation from the government. What you have to ask yourself as a retail investor is, do you understand all of this stuff? Do you understand what's happening between government legislation and your DB CETV? I would say probably you don't. Even myself, with 12 years of experience transferring pensions on this basis, I wouldn't understand this either until I actually really sit and read through things in detail. So I'm not saying that all DB schemes are going to do this and that all CETVs are bad and you have to transfer out now before something goes wrong, but What I am saying is, if you just look at it on a logical basis, if you took a pen and a paper and you wrote down all the positives that can happen to DB schemes over the course of the next 10, 15, 20 years, and possibly all of the negatives, which might affect that DB scheme, the negative column is far higher. So, aging populations, increased technology, market performance. We've just been through a massive bull run. Are they going to have the same market performance? We're not sure. So all these factors plus more are meaning that over the course of time, with the revolving door of politics between business and the government, when these schemes are underfunded, there's only one way they can refund a defined benefit scheme, and that is either through exceptional financial returns, which very often the DB scheme cannot be taken high risk because everyone's money is together and they cannot be reckless and go adventurous on the portfolio in case something were to go wrong or the market dips. The other way is funding it through shareholder value. Rather than paying out dividends to the shareholders, taking that money from the shareholders and putting it back into the defined benefit scheme of people who left the company maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. I'll leave it to your own judgment as to how you think companies and DB schemes are going to deal with their underfunding over the course of time. Another important point, as we saw earlier here, it was talking about the special recovery plan that they have in place. The recovery plans are not legally binding documents. The recovery plan can say, we're going to work really hard to, in the next 3 years, this is our recovery plan. They submit it to the pensions, the TPR, the pensions regulator in the UK. It's not legally binding though. At the end of the 3 years, they can say, oh, damn, we missed it. Oh, well, here's our next recovery plan. Whilst it's good that the TPR are asking people to submit recovery plans, there's no legislation in there that binds them to actually achieve those goals. It's not like a CEO who says, I'm going to achieve 5% growth a year for the company in the next 3 years or you can fire me. These guys are just saying that we're going to try our best to reduce the deficits, but we don't promise anything. So guys, just a bit of background from my side. Perhaps I'm biased and obviously I'm on the other side of the equation. I'm a financial advisor and obviously we profit from people transferring their pensions. But if I had a final salary scheme in the UK, I would want to be going through that scheme paperwork in detail, understanding are they underfunded, are they not, what's happening inside the scheme, and then add that into your consideration of transferring your DB scheme. Because the scheme is underfunded does not make it suitable for you to transfer. The authorised DB advice process from the pension transfer specialist will ascertain if suitability to transfer for you or not is there, but it should be a factor for you to consider, or at least I would consider if it was my defined benefit pension scheme. Guys, I hope that's been useful. Let me know in the comment section below, and as always, please subscribe and share the channel to let anyone else know who you think could be useful for. Thank you very much.